If you ask me what the worst moments of my life were, or the lowest points, there'd be two answers. One of them would be when a relative of mine was feeling suicidal, and a lot of their emotions kind of rubbed off on me. But the other time was trying to get into a college. So it happened right when the pandemic hit in early 2020. Every single high school in the world was starting to become online, basically, and was purely just Zoom calls. Of course, I was excited at first. Um, a lot more free time for me. Don't have to think about commute. Don't have to actually be walking outside anymore. I remember every day when I came home, I would just be tired and completely crash. And my parents would be like, "What the hell are you doing each afternoon when you get home? You just keep wasting your time and doing nothing." What they don't understand is that I wasted all of my energy for today and I just sleep or relax, basically. Anywho, back to the real story. When the pandemic hit, that also meant that I wouldn't be able to interact with my friends as much as I did before. We really rarely even did Zoom or Discord calls either. So when I was in the pandemic, I had no friends. Um, Only, I guess I just kind of hanged out with my siblings, I suppose. Couldn't see them anymore besides rare moments when you do actually call. Um, uh, but that really wasn't often because they were also busy, studying and doing work, schoolwork and stuff. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when trying to get myself, accepted into a college. I didn't know it was so competitive, and every single student in the country is trying to be accepted into very limited slots. Um, Not only that, but academically, my scores were not great. Like, I was a quiet kid, so you'd expect I'd get higher scores, but no, they really were just bad or average at least. So yeah, I needed to get into a cram school. My parents saw my report card, and I needed to study more. So, there's this place called Inten, and all you need to know is that it's the cram school that my parents wanted me to get into because it had a good reputation and everything. And my brother was also there when he was in high school, and he's smart, so whatever. My parents wanted me to get into Inten. There's an entrance exam to get into the cram school, and that's because I guess the speed that they were teaching their students was different depending on the entrance exam results, and even then you could fail um, because you just weren't smart enough, and it's better that you go somewhere else to catch up, basically. Guess what? I failed the entrance exam to get into the cram school meant to help you get into a university, which was incredibly embarrassing and stupid and bad. Uh, the way that my parents kind of got me out of that situation is the rule was you're not supposed to you're literally not allowed to reapply the entrance exam again to get into the cram school. So what my parents did is just like, all right, fuck it, we're gonna get you into another branch and hope they don't have some kind of information network that tells them that this guy failed in another place but got accepted somewhere else. So yeah, I had a second chance. But my parents really scolded on me. Like, I think that was the worst moment in my life, the worst day of my life, because when the results came back and that my entrance exam literally wasn't even accepted, while everyone else was. Like, it was a very simple entrance exam, but I failed on the speed portion. You were meant to do a bunch of math questions very quickly, and I just cannot keep up, basically. I'll be honest, I had this entire thought process of like, why the hell does anyone care about speed when it comes to calculation and arithmetics? Like, if I just get the answer, that's good enough, right? No matter how long it takes, really. As long as it's correct, because I don't really find myself in any other situation that tests my speed when it comes to testing my skill besides actually like skill tests. Like, sure, just get it reasonably done quick enough, but whatever. My friends that tried to get into Inten, they passed super easily. Everyone else that took the test when I was there also passed, and I was seemingly was the only one that didn't. So my parents was like, "Dude, you're stupid. What the hell is wrong with you? All you do is play video games and not think about academic shit." And I cried on the way home. It was very bad. Worst day in my life, probably. So yeah. A month later, or a week or something, they told me focus nothing but trying to get into the cram school again. You're lucky you were given a second chance at all, so you better not fuck it up this time. And there's literally no information about the cram school test. Like, it's a very simple test. No one expects you to actually study for it. But I failed anyways. So whatever. I tried with whatever resources that I had and upping my speed on to do these calculations. And the second time around, I think I barely passed, or like it was a decent score or something, but like it was still like on the lower class. There's three classes. There's low speed, medium speed, and fast speed classes. Like, that just depends on your level, and I was obviously just above the threshold for the lower classes. I don't remember if I had to even retake the test for a third time because my score was so bad. It was like in the middle of the threshold or something. It was like exactly on the threshold, and I needed to do it again. But whatever. The point is, I actually did pass, like the third time, even though for everyone else they passed straight away, immediately. Um, and after that, it was even more hellish. Like, that was literally just phase one. I got into the cram school to actually study for the real test that I'm supposed to do, which is to pass and get accepted into a college. After that, it was the pandemic. We had a bunch of Zoom calls. That was my entire day was filled with Zoom calls. There's high school, and then after that is actual cram school. And my day was basically just from 7 a.m. to uh, maybe 9 p.m. 14 grueling hours of just Zoom calls and studying and listening to other people lecture to me about stuff I don't care about. That was basically my life for the entirety of the pandemic, and no wonder I was depressed back then. My lord. I was really frustrated with how little free time I had. It was all just sitting on my chair and looking at my computer, but it wasn't even doing anything fun. It was just listening to other people. I had, a terrible attention span. So instead of actually paying attention and making that time worth it, and actually studying. I was just kind of fucking about, playing on my phone. I don't fucking know. It definitely was not studying. I was bored out of my mind back then. And keep in mind that this is the pandemic. The My brother that had to get into college in 2018, that was before the pandemic, he actually had to go to school. He had to be there at 7, so he woke up much earlier and had to commute there. And then he had to commute to his cram school, which was like an hour away or something, and then he had to come back home, and that took until 10 p.m. So the times are similar, but at least I could relax and stay at home. He had to travel around, and it must have been bad for him. But at least he was a class A student who was smart. I was a quiet kid, but I was stupid. Lol. Yeah. Hold on. I think the free time that I did have, it was just playing Genshin Impact, and that was just meant to keep me sane. Like, I just thoughtlessly played it, did whatever in the game, farmed for a couple of things, and that was pretty much all the free time that I had enough to be productive with. Like, I couldn't. My YouTube channel was still kind of up and going, but that was also failing. Like, no one actually bothered or cared about what I was uploading, but I still had a creative outlet that I wanted to get out there, make videos about, but I had no time to edit anything big. So maybe even if I did upload things, it would be simple and short and small. But no one cared about what I was doing. So whatever, I was just playing fucking Genshin Impact and wasting my life doing that. Sorry for the background noises. Anyways, I did eventually realize, okay, I need to study. The college exams are gonna come up. My parents are gonna kill me if I don't achieve anything or do anything. And yeah, I paid attention to the lectures. I started to do that. And, eventually all I had time for was just studying, because that's already all the time that I was doing in those Zoom calls. So whatever. Now I just had to pay attention. Cool. In fact, passing high school, super easy. I think pretty much everyone did. There's like a 100% passing rate. Great. The hard part is actually getting into a college. That was a living hell. It was incredibly competitive for something that I just did not care about, but I still woke up every day, worked my ass off, read a billion books. I did the quantitative math test so many times, and I practiced on a billion tests. It was uncountable. My parents eventually gave me the advice that it's basically just memorization. But what they don't realize is that there is thousands of types of questions possible, and there's only gonna be 20 of them on the actual test, but you still gotta be prepared. Like, if you were lagging behind as well, then someone better is inevitably gonna replace you. And that's why I kind of hate competition, I guess. I mean, I like that it exists for other people to become better than other people, to create something or do something impressive and good. But when I'm actually expected to have those standards and be better than everyone else, especially when I'm not passionate about it, that's something that I hate. And getting into a college with those limited slots to be accepted, I don't want to tear myself up about trying to get accepted into one of those spots. But, like, what was my life going to be after high school if not college? Actually work? I don't have any work experience. What am I expected out of? What do people expect me to do? What are my skills? I don't really do anything. that would be useful for others. So, whatever. Getting into a college, that's the easier route. Because the other route is just very uncertain and I don't really know what to do with my life, you know? So yeah, I was working. I was studying holiday every day. Now, the next point, what I probably hated the most are these mock exams that I had to do that were supplied by the cram school. It's called the UTBK, which is the computer-based national exam route, basically to get accepted into a college. Those four-letter words still give me PTSD. We did them, I don't know, monthly, every few weeks, and my parents would always comment on the results of those scores. They would say, oh, your score is lower than the last time, these results are less than your peers, and I needed to be better than them to actually get accepted anywhere. And again, I just did not want to care about it, but they were so insistent that I get a good score. I started to hate studying. I hated being compared to these people. I hated to I hated being so competitive about something that I couldn't give less of a shit about, but I needed to do it to get into a decent college. One day, I guess all these pent up emotions kind of broke like a dam one day, probably like the second worst day of my life. Um, yeah, I broke down. I was just doing a mock exam. This one, this mock exam that I just kind of found online, these questions were so incredibly difficult and esoteric. Like, they felt like they were meant for Olympiads, not just to get accepted into a college. But I can't believe that I was held up to these standards. Like, these questions are so difficult, I couldn't understand what the questions were about, let alone on how to answer them. So yeah, my mother was in the room, she was cleaning it, and I just said, shit, test's fucking hard. And I kind of just started crying about why am I expected to do this? How am I expected to do this? I guess I was just kind of being honest with my parents now and questioning myself on things like, am I really ready to become an adult and be part of the workforce? Because I really wasn't ready. Um, I remember at least telling them I wanted to be independent. I wanted to find a way to make money for myself, and that's all that matters. I don't know if college really is the best way to do it, but whatever. I've been working so hard on it for so long, and they paid for me to get into a cram school and everything, so let's just go ahead and do it. They said, yeah, they said to relax, don't force yourself that hard from this point on, because it's really just a few days until the actual test itself. At this point, maybe you're not going to learn anything new or practice anymore and you'll get better at it. Just reread your notes and make sure you remember everything going into the test. And on test day, I just kind of tried to be as emotionless as possible, make sure I remembered everything, all the equations and stuff. And turns out it was slightly, very slightly easier than I thought it would be, which is just unbelievable, I guess. I just worked on it for so long that I didn't expect that to be what I got out of it. Maybe it's because my standards from studying it for so long that it just kind of bloated to something unrealistic, and now that I'm actually doing it, it became a bit easier. Still pretty hard though, obviously, but when the results came out, it was also better than I expected. So this story might have a good ending. God, fuck you. Psych! I didn't get accepted into a college yet. Um, the score that I got, while it was higher than the mock exams that I did and that I so much hated, it was still not good enough. Still less than my peers, still less than the people that I was actually competing, which is what actually mattered. I didn't get accepted anywhere yet. Luckily, after the Utbeka, there is another route, which is independent or mandiri. Every single university gives their own kind of miniature test, I guess, on top of the Utbeka. And some independent routes were also just like, just plug in your Utbeka score and we'll rate it against everyone else that went into the independent route. So yeah, this was basically when I was officially unemployed. That's what my mother told me, and that really kind of stressed me out. That now I'm an adult, and instead of being a high schooler or still studying, I was officially unemployed. You're a leech on society at this point until you get into a college. And those few months were, in an aspect or in a perspective, even worse than when I had to study for the UTBK, because at least the year that I had to prepare to for that test, I was still focusing on one thing. I was focusing on that test. But when you become unemployed, the possibilities and the uncertainty is shot way higher. So I didn't know where I was gonna go or what I was doing, I guess, besides just struggling real hard to do whatever I can to get accepted just anywhere possible. And again, it was uncertain. I don't know where my future was gonna lead me or if I get accepted anywhere. So yeah, there was like a lot of universities that I applied for, maybe like 15. I don't remember the exact number. And guess what? I didn't get accepted into any of those either. Like, it was just rejection letter after rejection letter. Um, it was a very demotivational time, and I just felt like I wasn't going anywhere. It was just a mess of my mind was a mess. My life at the time uh, was very unclear. And I remember the afternoon that I got a very specific letter, or when the results were announced for one specific university, I was still preparing for a test for another university. But I saw the results and I did get accepted into one, a single one. And I think it's like the it's in one of the top 10 ranked universities in Indonesia. So that is great, spectacular. If I had to compare with my brother, I mean, at that time I was happy, but like comparing it to my brother's results, when because he's actually smart, he did the UTBK and he got accepted into two universities, the top two in the country immediately. I don't know. I shouldn't compare myself to actually smart people, because I'm not one of them, academically at least. So yeah, the afternoon that I got that letter that I got accepted into one university, at least, was the end of a very long struggle of like 2 years of trying to get accepted somewhere. It really just made me feel like I didn't belong in this world. Like, the standards that I tried to put myself up to and studying until I can catch up with everyone else, it just kind of felt like maybe I should be going in a different direction. But the thing is, I'm also scared of uncertainty, and I don't know where that will lead me or if I'm actually going to be successful in that route, so I might as well just choose the normie route that everyone else goes to. I don't know. Very weird, very sad times. I think if there was one lesson, one thing that I would do, um, that I could change and go back in time, basically, First of all, let's just assume that I suck at studying, because that's probably true. Everyone else just kind of understands things that I don't, and instinctually can do math and science, and social science is better than me. Whatever, sure, they're better than me. What I should have done is increased my local knowledge of universities that I could have gotten accepted into, because a lot of my friends, they didn't really go for the top ranked universities while I did. And that was really stupid. That was the stupidest thing I could have done. I tried putting myself into, I'm a circle and I'm putting myself into the square hole. The issue is that the top ranked universities are the only names that I knew and the only names everyone was talking about. So, of course, that's where I wanted to go. Not necessarily because I did want to go there and that um but my knowledge was so little that I didn't know where else to go. What I should have done is just go through some big research phase where I really tried to reach out and try to find local universities, ones that were less known and were more accepting of people like me, I guess is the best way to say it. People who had lower scores, instead of the high top ranking ones. Uh, so yeah, that's it. That's the worst moment in my life. Uh, I don't know what else to say. It was very depressing. I don't think about it too much nowadays, and it's healthier that I don't. So, thanks for listening to my sob story. Maybe you got something out of it. And yeah, consume everything and goodbye. Sorry for the background noises.